All right, so I guess where you want to start?
Well, what do you want? What do you want to know? My name is Andy.
Andy what?
Well, that's the name that they named me, and I was born a few years back in a little old coal mining town of western Pennsylvania.
What was the town called?
Wino,
Wino?
Wyano,
Wyano.
Y-A-N-O.
Y-A-N-O. Huh.
That was uh, near, southeast of Pittsburgh, down in the coal fields.
Mm-hmm.
I just barely remember being down there, just a little bit. I remember when my brother Steve was faintly they told me he was born,
Mm-hmm.
because about 4 years difference, 4.5 years difference between us. And I remember the doctor going down by the house. They used to have doctors came to the house back then.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, we lived in another town there, in a coal mining town,
So,
and that's where,
was your dad a coal miner?
yes. Well, my dad, of course, he wasn't a coal miner, but back then when immigrants come in here, incidentally, he was a legal immigrant. He went through Castle Garden
Uh-huh.
and all of that stuff, and my parents were, and they had a thing. And as soon as he got here, he started studying up the thing and got his. They back then they had to wait 10 or 12 years or something like that before they could get their citizen.
Mm-hmm.
And they got their citizens, my mother and him, and as soon as they could. And I moved to Patton, Pennsylvania. That's near Greensburg, and that's another coal mining town.
Yeah.
That's where I spent my childhood from first and second grade.
Hmm. Do you remember the name of the school?
Yeah, El Rico. El Rico.
The Rich?
Huh?
Is it The Rich?
I don't know what it was. It was just, I remember when I took a class picture of it, and it says El Rico. I was in the second grade, and a group picture like that there's to take, and I happened to be sitting on the ground in the front row, and the photographer gave me the little blackboard, little with the name and the school and the year, and I of all that school, I got to hold that thing there, and
Yeah.
I still got a picture on somewhere on it of it, and that's where I went first year to school and second year, and after that we moved to Majory. That's where we. But Dorothy and I went back there, looked up all the places where I was born
Mm-hmm.
and where I went to school and where I was baptized, different towns and everything. In fact, that old coal mining town, we got there at the Yukon where I was born.
Mm-hmm.
The name of the town is Yukon, and that's an old, of course it was a coal mining town, where they had big coal mines and coke ovens and all of that stuff,
Yeah.
a typical old. And when Dorothy and I went there several years ago, it was just an old town, just a few people living there, and right in town was a tavern. So we walked into that tavern about 11 o'clock in the morning, you know, got into that town and walked into that tavern, and there was about 5 or 6 old timers, you know, real old timers, sitting there playing cards or whatever, having a beer, you know.
Uh-huh.
And and we asked them if they had something to eat, you know. I think they made us cheese sandwiches or something like that, you know. And that was real interesting. It was we didn't get to see we went to see the church and around town and everything, you know.
So you were, so after moving around, how old were you when you landed in Majory?
Oh, about third grade, I guess about 8, something on, I don't know. And I had a disadvantage over the other kids because they had law. Then you had to be before you could go to school, you had to be a certain age, you know. And the cutoff date was September 1st. If you were 6, 7 years old before September, well, you went in, you know. And you can be the same year, but if you were after, like I was in November, I couldn't go. I had to wait. You know, like Billy Schwantz, you know, he was born the same year as I was, but he was a year ahead of me for that reason, because he was born in May, and I was 1 year. That's why I had to go from school. I was a little, about half a year behind everybody else. Not an age, that is. And I went for 3 years to that little school in Majory there,
Do you remember?
5th grade, and then after that I went to,
Do you remember the name of the little school?
yeah, just the hill, up on the hill, the school on the hill, you know. And there was another one where we had was down in town, but that one was
So what was the school like?
huh?
What was the school like? I mean, was it a small one-room school, or
No, well, when we were in Majory there, we had
who were the teachers?
usually in one class we had third and fourth grade together, you know, and stuff like that. But some of the classes were, and they were up to about 6th grade there, and then from 6th grade on they went to the other school down in town. Teachers were okay still, and I got some of those pictures around here of that. And I had lots of fun there. We walked to school, you know, because I remember we had to walk up that long hill, you know, and up to that still slope, not slope, but Elm Street School they called it, but it was up on the hill. I'd go to leave the house, and it was quite a ways, maybe about 3/4 of a mile, you know. And the first ones who would go to school, after that you'd have to follow in you know, all you'd see is snow that deep, you know, because kids,
Yeah.
snow was that deep, the kids were. And I guess I did pretty good in school. I don't know, I never failed a year, and that's where we had lots of fun. And I got older. We discovered Banana Pool. Have you ever heard of Banana Pool? Well, there was a place down past the tracks where the river come down there, you know, and Yankee River went by there, and then there was another little tributary, you know, of spring ground, spring water, and it was ice cold, and it went down and a certain way, and after it got through there was a big swamp kind of, and got there, and the steel mills, of course, all the slag and ashes and stuff, they used to dump them out there, you know, out there. and they built that up, and it cut off that little stream,
Mm-hmm.
and it built up and made a nice little pond there, real nice. And of course, by the time we got there, why, that was already starting to be overgrown and everything, trees and brush and
Uh-huh.
stuff, and near the railroad. And of course, us young kids, when us, just sixth, seventh grade, go down there swimming and that thing, found that thing and we discovered it. In fact, I named it because it's shaped like a banana. It's still to this name, it's named Banana Pool.
Yeah.
And I remember naming that thing.
Hmm.
And it was skinny dipping, nobody had a bathing suit there. They were 12 or 15 years old,
Just guys?
all the guys. And things like that had lots of fun, chasing rabbits and fooling around down the woods all the time. I had a real good, childhood thing, like a kid should have.
Yeah. Was it safe?
Huh?
I mean, was it safe to do that?
Was it safe? Yeah, we did that. I mean, it wasn't deep. It was.
No, I'm talking about just the town and the neighborhood.
Oh yeah, it was. It was.
Did you know everyone?
Yeah, everybody knew you, and everybody knew everything about everybody else, And it was like on our street, our Third Street. It was considered Third Street. There were all ethnic people there, like down on the corner was Hungarian. Next one was, I don't know what it was, Ukrainian or something. Then there was Polish, then Slovak, then Ukrainian, then Polak, and then the next one was another Hungarian, and up farther up was an Irishman. And across the street, right across the street, the same thing. There's Italians and was Irish and, several. Everybody was, and that's where I learned to, hang around with the other kids. Everybody, the parents were at home. They used to talk with their native language, I learned Polish, I learned Hungarian, I never learned real good Italian, but Russian, we had Russian next door thing, and I got to where I was pretty good at it. Of course, it's Slovak, I learned to read and write and everything in that.
Who taught you how to do that?
Huh?
Who taught you how to do that?
My parents, they talk and everything. My mother hardly knew very little English, and my dad knew a little bit. And then when I went to school, we went to a Slovak school, and they taught us reading and writing Slovak, just including like English, like they do Spanish here now.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a private school, it wasn't a public school.
Mm-hmm.
And from there on, I went to, when I graduated from St. Anne's up there, I went to Cleveland to
Well,
boarding school,
so you graduated St. Anne's. What school was that?
St. Anne's.
What type of school? Was that a middle school? A high?
It was parochial school.
Okay.
It was Slovak. It was Slovak school,
Mm-hmm.
the parish church. Everybody had their own church there. It wasn't like now where if you're Catholic, you go, everybody goes, But every nationality had their own, like Slovaks had that, St. Anne's, and then St. Stanislaus was Polish, and so-and-so, somebody was Hungarian. They all had ethnic, and the whole, that was altogether different than it is now.
So did you
And
speak?
they used to talk their own language, stores downtown would have a Polish store, everybody would, just like going into Mexico or something, only everybody had their own. And I learned hanging out with the kids, I'd go to Chomas's, who's my buddy, and I'd been in his house as much as he was, you know. We didn't, kids
Yeah.
were, you know. And I'd listen to their mother, they'd, you know, holler, raise hell with us, and then Hungarian, and you learned it. That's what I was telling Matt here the other day. He said, coming back to the present, what we would, you know, and I said, he said, what two things would you most you'd want to do, you know, you want to do? I said, well, I'd like to take you up there, take where I took my wife, you know, where I took Dorothy, and the old coal mines, and then after where her and I were raised, you know, kids, and see that, you know, just drive through town, not to stay, spend her time or anything, just to show her some of the things. And that's the first thing on my, I'd like, and then the other thing, I'd like to go up here to, of course, I'd like to go to Santa Fe, you know, for several days. That's a nice place, I like that. And he said, well, I don't know, it depends on how much time I have. I said, man, you got more time now. But we, and after I graduated from school, I went to work at steel mills there, you know, railroad car. I built, the company of General American tank car can build railroad tank cars. You know, it was one of the big companies there.
Yeah, yeah.
They had in Majory, right in town there. And I worked in a little section of it. There was about 15 of us in a little nice building where we, you know, back then they used to ship milk and stuff like that on railroad cars. And we had to build those railroad cars special for hauling milk, you know, like up in New England, you know, shipping milk into New York and all that stuff, you know, on like they do. Everything imaginable used to be shipped by tank cars.
Yeah, sure.
Oil and water and grease and corn syrup and milk and anything, you know, and powders inside it. And this was a real, of course, it was a specialized thing, and it was a real good, and everybody envied me my job because nice and warm and clean inside the building, you know.
Well, what did you do exactly?
What did I do? Well, they'd send, and every so often they'd bring these railroad cars in and have them refurbished, you know, cleaned them up, painted, and they looked like a boxcar, only they were shaped and built to match a fast freight train, fast passenger train, you know. Everything was by train back then. And inside these cars there was two big thermos bottles, like, you know, glass lined tanks on each, and then there's a little vestibule in the middle there, and they had all kind of agitators, you know, and then purifiers and blowers, and everything was stainless steel. It was real nice, and had to go in and replace those and, you know, clean them up, and it was real good. Outside, paint them to match the railroad passenger train. It wasn't like an old box car.
And so you did that? You painted them and
painted them and
refurbished them?
Check everything, all these.
You remember how much you got paid for that?
Yeah, 45 cents an hour. 40 cents when I first started. Then I got a couple of months, I got 45.
That's more than a 10% raise right there.
Huh?
That's more than 10%
Yeah,
right there.
Well, that was a kind of a, you know, entry. I learned the job. And we used to get paid every 2 weeks, you know, that was a payday. at the thing, and I'd make $21 for 2 weeks. Man, that was good money back then.
Yeah.
First time I paid income tax, I never forget. I paid $4 income tax, and that was, man, that was pay, you know. Some people paid more, but that's all the income tax it was compared to, it would be 400 now or more.
So what did you do with your $20 that you made for the 2
Just
weeks?
to give it to my mother, you know,
All of it?
just turn it over to her. Of course, I always had, there was always, any time I wanted money, it was there, you know. After a while, when I started goofing around and messing around, I used to spend quite a bit of money. On my 21st birthday, they gave me a trip around the United States, you know. Me and a couple other guys, we left Majory. That was in 1939. Left Majory and went to west, straight west, all across Ohio and past New York and up, Chicago and up to all the, you know, Kansas, Nebraska, up to South Dakota, Yellowstone and all those places, Wyoming, and down to Salt Lake City and San Francisco to the fair, fair out there, the national, you know, World's Fair that year. Spent a couple days in San Francisco, went to the fair, and then went on down to we're going to coast down to L.A., went to Hollywood. Of course, Hollywood was everything, you know, down back then. We had everybody, if any place.
What year was that?
Huh?
What year was that?
1939. And come back from there and went through Grand Canyon and come to Texas and stuff like that. I bought me a cowboy hat and Amarillo there. You know, we went on highway, the old Highway 66, come back there up through the Arkansas. We were going exactly 1 month.
Who did you go with?
Oh, some of the guys that I worked with. You know.
How many?
Two of them, man.
Do you remember their names?
Huh?
Do you remember their names?
Eddie, I forgot him. Eddie, I don't know, he was older than I. And then there was Barton, a kid by the name of Joe Barton or something like that. And you know how much money I spent when my mother said they wanted, you know, and I asked for $100. Of course, that was a lot back then. And for that whole trip, I come home with, I remember, 8 silver dollars. You know, they had silver out in West yet. We went to Nevada and places, every place you went was Reno and places like that they used silver dollars. And I come home and we slept in, you know, they didn't have motels back then. They had little guest houses. You know, we rent a house. They used to rent rooms out. And they'd rent a room for 50 cents and stuff like that. And we had a big, good time. That was one of the big things on my life.
So going back to like your high school time.
You know what?
Going back to your high school time.
Well,
can you describe the high school and what it was like and
I went to Benedictine.
how many people were in there?
In Cleveland, you know, there was just stayed there. I stayed. My brother lived in there, you know, John, and I spent most of the time in his instead of back in the dormitory, you know. And I didn't, and there was nothing. It was just, I had lots of fun in Cleveland, you know. I had a streetcar passed, unlimited riding, streetcars, I always knew that Cleveland like my own back. And I used to go down in winter on the lake, and we had lots of fun like high school kids do. Because it was about half of them were non-resident, I mean, they were lived with their relatives in town and stuff like that. And when I went after the second year, my junior year, I started in Brookville High School. That's in Majory. That's where the high school was. And that's where I graduated from.
Can you describe Brookfield, sort of how big it was, and what were the classes like, and what did you study?
Oh, well, of course, the schools were, I think in my class there was about, back then it was a depression, middle of the depression, in 1934, 35, and kids, very few of them went to school, or they'd go maybe first 2 years, and then, but very few out of, I think out of whatever, my class, I think there was about 70, and I don't know, about half of them actually graduated,
Mm-hmm.
They didn't graduate, and I graduated. I wanted to go to school even then, I didn't gripe about having to go to school, and we used to drive to, the school was in Brookfield, and next about 6 or 7 miles from, we'd get up there in the morning and get on a bus. They had a school bus and take us. And I graduated from them. I had pretty good grades, I made better than, well, not good, but average, pretty. They weren't.
What was your favorite subject?
Chemistry. That was chemistry back then, and physics. I liked chemistry. First year, in junior, I took chemistry. In fact, I was tops in chemistry at that time in school. And in physics, that was the second year I took physics, Of course, I took geometry and algebra and mathematics and history and stuff like that, some of the others.
Do you remember your chemistry teacher's name?
Yeah, Mr. What the heck was it? I can picture him real plain, and I don't remember him. He'd always, in class, he'd ask a question and nobody could say anything. Andy, tell him. Andrew, tell him. He'd say that.
Yeah.
And I'd say, copper sulfate, or whatever it was, the answer. And I graduated from up there. When my mother got sick, I graduated 36, and I worked there for 4 years at General American. My mother got sick, and
What happened to your mother?
huh?
What happened to your mother?
She had cancer, got cancer in the stomach. She was 54 when she died. And after she died, of course, by that time it was a war. That's where I met Dorothy. And
What was your mother and father's name?
my mother's name was Maria, and my father's name was Stephen.
Maria
My brother's
Borgia,
Borgia.
Tatarko.
My mother's maiden name.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. My father came here in 1890. He was born in 1881, and he was 20 years old when he in 1901, he came to America, emigrated to America.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother came here about 2 or 3 years later. And she was about 3 years younger than he was.
Hmm.
But I don't, none of my, well, what relatives I had, you know, I had some third cousin or something there that I met. My parents didn't have any relatives here, you know. And my dad, of course, he had some relatives in Slovakia, and my mother, she had one sister in Jablonov, Ljubljana.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when she died, when we were packing her, my mother, you know, finally got word that she died. The only thing my mother felt, you know, of course, her sister, and she used to get, my mother got, I remember they used to get a little thing from the estate, you know, at in Jablonov, right outside of town. They own, you know, quite a bit of estate, you know, and they used to get royalties from lumber and stuff like that. And my mother used to every once in a while get a few dollars that, you know, where the estate would send it to her. And of course it wasn't much, you know. And after later on, of course, when it changed, you know, and communists and everything took over, and even before that, they were under Hungary and different places, and then they became Czechoslovakia, and they were under the Czechs and Bohemians, you know. They were a big, powerful group at that time, and Slovaks were always a minority, you know. They never. And then, of course, after World War II, the communists took over, you know, everything went. Anyway,
All right. Well, I think that's a good start.
Okay.
Next week, how about we talk about how you met Grandma and a little bit about Grandma's life?
Oh, I don't know. Well, I don't know much about her, you know, except till I was about,
Well,
20 years old when she died, you know.
no. My grandmother,
Huh?
Dorothy.
Oh, your mother.
My grandmother, Dorothy.
Well, Dorothy.
Yeah. We'll next week I'll ask you about how you met
Oh.
Dorothy, your wife.
Well, that's where from there on, after high school, you know.
Yeah. But I'll ask that next week.